I smiled. My daughter nodded. She wouldn't look at me, but she nodded. That was enough. Connor, my son-in-law, was still talking, his voice filling my small craftsman living room in Portland like he owned the place. He didn't. I did. Every square foot of it, paid off 12 years ago when my late husband Robert was still alive. Linda, you need to understand something, Connor said, leaning forward on my grandmother's vintage sofa like he was about to share wisdom instead of another excuse. This isn't just about me. This is about your daughter's future, our future. The business I'm trying to build, it's for Emily, for our family. Emily. My beautiful 32-year-old daughter who used to tell me everything, who used to call me 3 times a week just to chat, who now sat beside her husband, picking at her cuticles, unable to meet my eyes. You've said that before, Connor, I replied calmly. I'd learned over the past 3 years not to raise my voice with him. He thrived on conflict, twisted it, made you the villain in his version of events. You said it about the consulting business, and the crypto investment, and the app development company. Those were learning experiences. They were my money, I interrupted, keeping my tone level. $18,000 total. Money from your wife's college fund that I'd been saving since she was born. Connor's jaw tightened. He hated when I brought up specifics, numbers, proof. He preferred dealing in abstractions, in dreams, and possibilities. That's ancient history, he said. This is different. This opportunity with the commercial real estate development, it's legitimate. I have investors lined up. I just need $80,000 for my stake to make it happen. $80,000. I'd had the same number in my head for weeks now, ever since Connor first mentioned this opportunity over what was supposed to be a pleasant Sunday dinner. The number had grown each time he brought it up, started at $50,000, then $65,000, now $80,000. I don't have that kind of money to give you, I said. It wasn't entirely true. I had my teacher's pension, which after 33 years of teaching 5th graders, came to a comfortable amount. I had Robert's life insurance, which I'd invested carefully. I had savings, but none of it was Connor's business, and more importantly, none of it was going to fund whatever scheme he'd latched onto this month. But you do, Connor said, and something in his voice changed, sharpened. Emily told me about the account, the one you two share, for emergencies, right? My stomach dropped. I looked at my daughter. She was staring at the coffee table, her face flushed. That account is for Emily, I said carefully, for actual emergencies, medical bills, car repairs, not helping my husband save our financial future. Connor stood up. He was 6'2", broad-shouldered, and he knew how to use his physical presence. That's what you're saying? That your daughter's marriage isn't worth $80,000? That's not what I said. Because here's the thing, Linda. He started pacing, his voice taking on that reasonable, measured tone that somehow made everything he said sound logical. Emily and I have been talking, a lot, about boundaries, about toxic relationships, about how sometimes parents can't let go, can't stop controlling their adult children. I felt the words like a slap. I'm not trying to control anyone. Then why won't you help us? He stopped pacing, turned to face me directly. Why won't you invest in your daughter's happiness? Unless, he paused, let the silence stretch. Unless you don't actually trust her judgment. Don't trust her choice in a husband. Don't trust that she knows what's best for her own life. It was masterful, really. In 30 seconds, he'd twisted my refusal to fund his questionable business venture into evidence that I was a controlling, distrustful mother. Connor, that's not fair, Emily said quietly, the first words she'd spoken since they arrived. Isn't it? He turned to her, his voice softening. Honey, your mom has been making decisions for you your whole life, where you went to college, what you majored in, even tried to talk you out of marrying me. Remember? I had tried to talk her out of it, not because I didn't want her to be happy, but because I'd seen the red flags, the way Connor had no stable job history, the way he talked about money, always about to make it, never actually making it, the way he'd isolated Emily from her friends, slowly, subtly, until Sunday dinners with me were her only regular social interaction outside of work. I just wanted you to wait, I said to Emily. Get to know each other better. It's been 3 years, Mom, Emily said, and there was something brittle in her voice. "We're married. We're trying to build a life. And every time Connor has an opportunity, you question it. You make me doubt him. Because I love you." "No," Connor cut in. "Because you can't let go. Because you're alone now, and you want Emily to stay tethered to you instead of building her own family." The words hit harder than I expected, because there was a grain of truth in them. I was alone. Robert had been gone for 8 years. Emily was my only child. And yes, maybe I had held on too tight sometimes. But this wasn't about that. "I'm not giving you $80,000, I said firmly. Connor's expression changed. The reasonable mask slipped, just for a moment, and I saw something cold underneath. "Then we need to discuss our living arrangement," he said. "What living arrangement?" "Emily and I can't keep paying for 2 households. Your pension is comfortable, but you're living alone in this big house," he gestured around my 3-bedroom home, "while we're crammed in a 1-bedroom apartment. It doesn't make financial sense." My blood ran cold. "This is my house, mine and Robert's. And you're 63 years old, Linda, living alone. What if something happens? What if you fall, have a stroke, need help? I'm perfectly healthy, for now. But realistically, you should be thinking about downsizing. Maybe one of those nice assisted living communities. They have activities, social groups, medical staff on site." "I'm not moving into a nursing home," I said, keeping my voice steady despite the fury building in my chest. "No one's saying nursing home," Connor said smoothly. "Just something more appropriate for your stage of life. And in the meantime, Emily and I could move in here, take care of the house, take care of you." I looked at Emily. She was crying silently, tears running down her face. "Is this what you want?" I asked her directly. She opened her mouth, closed it, looked at Connor. "It's what makes sense," Connor answered for her. "And Linda, if you're not willing to help us when we need it, maybe it's time we all reevaluate our relationships. Set some boundaries. Take some space." The threat was clear. Help them financially, or lose access to your daughter. "I need you both to leave," I said. Connor looked surprised. Good. He'd expected me to crumble, to scramble, to keep Emily close at any cost. "Linda, please leave my house." Emily stood up, wiping her eyes. "Mom, I love you," I told her. "I will always love you. But I need you both to leave now." They left. Connor looked angry. Emily looked devastated. I closed the door behind them and locked it. Then I sat down on my grandmother's sofa and did something I hadn't done in 3 years. I smiled. Because 2 weeks ago, when Connor first mentioned the $80,000 at Sunday dinner, I'd done something. Something I should have done months earlier, when I first noticed small amounts missing from the shared account Emily and I maintained. $20 here, $50 there. Never enough to cause alarm, but enough to make me check the account history carefully. That's when I found the transfers. Larger ones. Ones Emily claimed she didn't know about. Ones that Connor said were misunderstandings or accidental withdrawals that he always promised to replace. He never replaced them. So I'd gone to see Margaret Chen, a lawyer who'd been Robert's colleague before he passed. Margaret was 71 now, semi-retired, but still sharp as ever. "Financial abuse?" Margaret had said after reviewing the account statements I brought. "That's what this is called. And if he forged signatures or accessed accounts he wasn't authorized to use, that's fraud." I hadn't wanted to believe it. Hadn't wanted to think my son-in-law was stealing from me, manipulating my daughter. But the evidence was there, in black and white. "What are my options?" I'd asked. Margaret had laid them out carefully. "Close the shared account. Document everything. Prepare for the worst. He'll escalate," she warned. "Men like this don't handle rejection well. When you cut off his access to funds, he'll try other tactics. Emotional manipulation, isolation, making Emily choose between him and you. He's already doing that. Then you need to be ready. Protect yourself legally, protect your assets, and most importantly, keep the door open for Emily, because one day she's going to see through him. And when she does, she'll need you." So I'd done it. Closed the shared account, transferred what was left into my name only, removed myself as a co-signer on the credit cards Connor had convinced Emily to open for building credit, changed my bank passwords, my email passwords, even had my locks rekeyed after I realized Connor had made a copy of my house key for emergencies. I documented everything, every withdrawal, every text message where Connor asked for money, every conversation. I'd given copies to Margaret, who'd stored them in her office safe. And then I'd waited. I'd waited for Connor to make his move. Because Margaret was right, he would escalate. I just hadn't expected it to happen this quickly. The next morning, I woke up to 17 missed calls from Emily. I called her back, my stomach tight with worry. "Mom!" Her voice was thick with tears. "Mom, what did you do?" "What do you mean?" "The account. The one we shared. It's gone. Closed. Connor went to transfer money for the business deposit, and it's not there. $8,000, Mom. It was supposed to be there. $8,000. Not 80. 8. Money that Connor had clearly helped himself to from our shared account before I closed it. "I closed that account 2 weeks ago," I said calmly, after I discovered unauthorized withdrawals. "Unauthorized? Mom, we shared that account." "You and I shared it, Emily. Not Connor. Connor was not authorized to access it. But he did anyway. Multiple times. For amounts you apparently didn't know about." Silence on the other end. "Honey, did you know he'd taken $8,000? He said he was going to tell me. He said it was for the business. Without asking you? Without asking me? He's my husband. And it was my money. Money I put aside for you. For real emergencies. Not for funding his business schemes. They're not schemes." But her voice cracked. "Mom, he's going to be so angry. The investor, the deposit, the whole deal, it's going to fall through. He's going to..." She stopped. "He's going to what, Emily?" "Nothing. I have to go." She hung up. I sat in my kitchen, my coffee growing cold, and waited. The call came 3 hours later. Not from Emily this time. From Connor. "You vindictive bitch," he said. "No preamble. You're deliberately sabotaging us. I closed an account that you were stealing from." "I wasn't stealing. You took money without permission from an account you weren't authorized to access. That's theft, Connor. That's fraud. I'm Emily's husband. We share everything. Not my money." And according to Emily, she didn't know about most of those withdrawals either. Because I handle the finances. Because she doesn't need to worry about every little detail. Every little detail? Connor, you've taken over $18,000 from various accounts over the past 2 years. You've put credit cards in Emily's name without her fully understanding the terms. You've borrowed money from me with promises to repay that you never kept. This ends now. The hell it does. His voice dropped to something dangerous. You want to play it this way? Fine. But don't think Emily's going to choose you over me. She's my wife. We're a team. And I've already told her about your manipulative behavior, your controlling tendencies, your inability to let her have an independent adult life. Have you told her about the forged signatures on the credit applications? Silence. I have copies, Connor. Bank statements, credit reports, email chains. I have documentation of every transaction, every lie, every manipulation. You're bluffing. Try me. He hung up. I wasn't bluffing. That afternoon, I drove to Margaret Chen's office. The sky was typical Portland gray, threatening rain. Margaret's office was in an old converted house near Hawthorne, all hardwood floors and built-in bookshelves. He's going to retaliate, Margaret said after I told her about the phone call. We need to file the police report now, before he does something worse. Emily will hate me. Emily might hate you temporarily, but she'll thank you eventually. Margaret pulled out the folder we'd started 2 weeks ago. Right now, she's in what we call the fog fear, obligation, and guilt. Connor's put her there deliberately. The only way to break through is to force reality into the situation. And reality is that he's committed financial crimes. Can we just give her the evidence? Let her see for herself? We can try. But women in Emily's situation often can't see clearly until they're physically away from the abuser. He's isolated her, made her dependent on him emotionally. She might look at proof and still defend him. She's my daughter. She's smart. Linda. Margaret's voice was gentle but firm. I've been doing this for 40 years. I've seen brilliant women, strong women, independent women stay with men like Connor because they've been conditioned to doubt their own perceptions. It's not about intelligence. It's about psychological manipulation. I knew she was right. I'd seen it happening. Slowly. Over 3 years. Emily used to be so confident. Now she second-guessed everything, apologized constantly, shrunk herself to avoid Connor's moods. "Okay," I said. "File the report." Margaret nodded. "One more thing. I think you should get a restraining order, preemptively. Against my son-in-law? Against a man who's shown escalating aggressive behavior, who has financial motive to harm you, and who has explicitly threatened you. Yes." I thought about Connor's voice on the phone. The cold rage underneath. "Okay," I said again. The police report was filed that evening. Detective Sarah Morrison took my statement, reviewed the documents Margaret had prepared. "This is pretty clear-cut financial exploitation," she said. "The forged signatures alone are enough for charges. But I have to warn you, these cases can get ugly. If your daughter is emotionally attached to the suspect, she may not cooperate with the investigation. I know. And even if we arrest him, he might post bail quickly. We're talking white-collar crime here, not violent offense. Judge might see him as low flight risk. Just do what you can." Detective Morrison said she would. I went home, made myself dinner, tried to watch television but couldn't focus. At 9:47 p.m., my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. Emily was standing on my porch, alone. I opened the door. She looked terrible. Red-eyed, makeup smeared, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. She was wearing the old University of Oregon sweatshirt she'd had since college. "Can I come in?" she whispered. I stepped aside. We sat in my living room. The same room where, just 24 hours ago, Connor had tried to manipulate me into funding his scheme and pressuring me out of my home. "Connor's gone," Emily said finally. He packed a bag, said he was staying at Marcus's place. Marcus was Connor's friend, equally unreliable, equally charming. "He said you called the police on him, that you're trying to have him arrested for fraud." "It's true." Emily's face crumpled. "Mom, how could you? How could I report that my son-in-law stole $18,000 from me and forged your signature on credit applications?" "He didn't forge," she stopped. "What credit applications?" "The 3 credit cards opened in your name 2 years ago. The ones with the $12,000 combined balance. The ones Connor's been making minimum payments on while letting the interest compound." Emily went white. "I don't have 3 credit cards. You do." "I have the statements." I went to my office, retrieved the folder I'd prepared, the one with Emily's name on it. I'd made it last week, knowing this conversation would eventually happen. I handed it to her. She opened it slowly, read the first page, the second, flipped through bank statements, credit reports, loan applications. This is $12,000 of debt I didn't know about, in your name. Destroying your credit score, and when the bills come to your apartment, Connor probably hides them, tells you not to worry about the mail, handles everything. Emily's hands were shaking. He said he was protecting me from stress, that finances were complicated and he didn't want me to worry. He was protecting himself. From you finding out what he was doing. She looked up at me, tears streaming down her face. I defended him. I defended him to you, to my friends, to everyone. I thought you were being controlling, that you just didn't like him. I didn't like him, I admitted, because I saw what he was doing to you. But I couldn't make you see it. You had to see it yourself. There's more, isn't there? Emily's voice was small. More than what's in this folder. Probably. We only documented what we could verify. But Emily, honey, this is financial abuse. It's not about being bad with money or making mistakes. It's deliberate. It's criminal. He's going to say I'm overreacting, that I'm being dramatic, that you've poisoned me against him. He might say that. But Emily, look at the evidence. Look at the dates. These withdrawals happened when Connor was telling you he was between jobs. This credit card was opened the same week he told you he'd been approved for that consulting gig that never materialized. The patterns are there. Emily sat on my couch, the folder open in her lap, and cried. Deep, wrenching sobs that I felt in my chest. I sat beside her, put my arm around her shoulders, let her cry. "I'm so stupid," she said finally. "You're not stupid. You're trusting. You loved him. You wanted to believe him. I moved across the country for him. I took that job I hate because it was close to his opportunities. I stopped talking to Jen and Alicia because he said they were negative influences. Mom, I gave up everything. Not everything. You still have me. You still have your job. You still have yourself. Do I?" She looked at me with devastated eyes. "Because I don't even know who I am anymore. I feel like I've been sleepwalking for 3 years." We sat in silence. The rain that had been threatening all day finally started, pattering against the windows. "What happens now?" Emily asked. "Now you decide what you want. The police investigation will proceed either way. I can't stop that. But you get to decide about your marriage. Your life." "I don't know what I want." "That's okay. You don't have to know right now." "Can I?" She hesitated. "Can I stay here tonight?" "You can stay as long as you need." She did. She stayed that night, and the next, and the one after that. Connor called 17 times the first day, texted 43 times. Emily blocked his number on the 3rd day after he sent a message calling her a manipulated puppet and telling her I'd brainwashed her. Detective Morrison called on day 5. They'd picked Connor up at Marcus's place. The evidence was substantial forged signatures, unauthorized account access, credit fraud. He'd been charged with multiple counts of theft and identity fraud. He posted bail, Detective Morrison warned. His parents put up their house. He's not supposed to contact you or Emily, but people like him don't always respect restraining orders. He didn't contact us directly, but he did start posting on social media. Long screeds about vindictive mothers-in-law and marriages destroyed by family interference. He painted himself as the victim, Emily as the confused wife being manipulated, me as the villain. Some people believed him. Some people always believed the charming man with the smooth story. But Emily was seeing a therapist now, Dr. Patricia Okonkwo, who specialized in trauma recovery and domestic abuse. Emily went twice a week, sometimes more. "She says what Connor did is called coercive control," Emily told me one evening. "We were in my kitchen, making dinner together for the first time in 3 years. It's a pattern of behavior designed to make me dependent on him, isolated from support systems, uncertain of my own perceptions." "That sounds right." "She says recovery takes time, that I'll have good days and bad days, that I might doubt myself, might miss him, might even want to go back." "Do you want to go back?" Emily was quiet for a long moment, chopping vegetables for the salad. "Sometimes I miss who I thought he was, the man I fell in love with. But that man was never real, was he? That was just the mask he wore. I don't know, honey. Maybe parts of him were real, but the lying, the stealing, the manipulation that was real too." Dr. Okonkwo says that's the hardest part, accepting that someone can be 2 things at once, that the good moments were real to me, even if the person I thought I knew wasn't. We ate dinner, watched a movie, had a glass of wine. It felt normal, like before Connor, like when Emily used to come home from college and we'd spend weekends together just talking. "Thank you," Emily said before bed, "for not giving up on me, for seeing what I couldn't see. I'll never give up on you. I know. And Mom, I'm sorry for what I said, for choosing him over you, for doubting you. You were in an impossible position. You have nothing to apologize for." But she cried anyway, and I held her, and we healed a little bit more. Connor's trial was set for 6 months out. His lawyer tried multiple times to get Emily to testify on his behalf, to claim she'd authorized all the transactions. She refused. "I won't lie for him anymore," she told the prosecutor. Not even to avoid court. Margaret Chen represented me in the civil suit. I was suing Connor for restitution of the $18,000, plus interest and legal fees. His parents tried to settle out of court. I refused. "This isn't about the money," I told Margaret. "It's about accountability." "Good," Margaret said with grim satisfaction, "because he needs to be held accountable." 3 months after that night when I closed the shared account, I was in my garden, planting the tomatoes I grew every summer. Robert and I used to do this together. Now I did it alone, but it felt peaceful rather than lonely. Emily came outside, her phone in her hand. Connor's parents called. They want to meet with me. With us. They say Connor's been in therapy, that he's taking responsibility, that he wants to make amends. What do you think? I think. Emily sat down on the garden bench Robert built 20 years ago. I think Connor's parents are nice people who raised a son they don't understand. I think they're embarrassed and ashamed. I think they want their family back together so they can pretend none of this happened. Probably. And I think Connor is doing therapy because his lawyer told him it would look good in court, not because he actually wants to change. I put down my trowel. You sound sure of that. I am sure. Dr. Okonkwo explained something called the cycle of abuse: tension building, incident, reconciliation, calm. Then the cycle starts again. Connor's in the reconciliation phase right now. He's apologizing, promising to change, maybe even believing his own lies. But the pattern doesn't break without serious intervention and genuine desire to change. And Connor doesn't think he did anything wrong. He thinks he got caught. My daughter was back. The smart, clear-eyed woman who could analyze situations and make difficult decisions. She'd been hiding under layers of doubt and manipulation, but she was emerging. So what do you want to tell his parents? That I wish them well. That I hope Connor gets real help. But that I'm not participating in his redemption arc. She called them back, had the conversation. It was hard, but she did it. That night, we sat on my back porch, watching the Portland sunset paint the sky pink and orange. I filed for divorce today, Emily said quietly. How do you feel? Sad, relieved, guilty, free, all of it at once. That sounds about right. I keep thinking about how you knew. From the beginning, you saw through him. I saw red flags. But Emily, you saw them too. I wanted to believe they weren't flags. I wanted to believe I could fix him, change him, love him enough to make him better. That's not how it works. I know that now. We sat in comfortable silence. An elderly couple walked past on the sidewalk, holding hands. My neighbor's cat stalked through the bushes, hunting. Life went on. Mom? Emily said. Can I ask you something? Always. When Connor and I came over that day, when he was demanding money and threatening to push you out of your house, you weren't scared. Why not? I thought about that moment. About Connor standing in my living room, trying to intimidate me. About Emily crying silently beside him. Because I knew something he didn't. What? That I'd already won. I'd closed the accounts. I'd documented everything. I'd contacted a lawyer and prepared for exactly that scenario. Connor thought he had all the power, but he never did. He was just performing. And you let him. I let him show his true self. So that when this moment came, when you were ready to see the evidence would be there. Emily took my hand. You're kind of a badass, Mom. I smiled. The same smile I'd smiled that day when Emily nodded and Connor kept talking, not knowing his world was about to crumble. I learned from the best, I said. Your father always said the quietest people are the most dangerous ones. They're the ones who think before they act, who plan instead of reacting, who wait for the right moment. Dad would be proud of you. He'd be proud of both of us. We sat there as the light faded, as the stars began to appear, as my garden released its evening fragrance. Tomorrow there would be legal proceedings, therapy appointments, difficult conversations. Tomorrow Emily would have to face the wreckage of her marriage and figure out how to rebuild her life. But tonight, we were together, safe, free, and that was enough. The trial, when it finally came, was anticlimactic. Connor took a plea deal, 3 years probation, mandatory therapy, restitution payments. No jail time, which bothered me, but the prosecutor said it was the best we could hope for in a white-collar case. Emily didn't attend. She'd already moved forward, started building a new life. She was taking night classes, thinking about going back for her master's degree. She'd reconnected with Jen and Alicia, her old friends. She'd even started dating someone slowly, carefully, with Dr. Okonkwo's guidance. His name is David, she told me. He's a high school English teacher. He thinks Connor sounds like a psychopath. Smart man. He wants to meet you. I'd like that. She brought him to Sunday dinner a month later. David was quiet, thoughtful, brought flowers, and asked about my garden. He listened when people talked. He made Emily laugh. But most importantly, when Connor's name came up because it inevitably did, David said, I'm sorry you went through that, but I'm glad you're here now. Not trying to fix it, not trying to analyze it, just acknowledging it and moving forward. I liked him. A year after that night when I closed the account, Emily moved out of my house and into her own apartment. Small, bright, with a balcony where she planned to grow herbs. "You sure you're ready?" I asked, helping her hang curtains. "I'm sure. I love you, Mom, but I need my own space, my own life." "I know, but I'll still come for Sunday dinners. And I'll call. Multiple times a week, probably. I'm counting on it." We stood in her new living room, surrounded by boxes and possibility. "Thank you," Emily said. "For everything. For seeing what I couldn't see. For protecting me even when I hated you for it. For giving me a safe place to fall apart and put myself back together. That's what mothers do. Not all mothers." Dr. Okonkwo says a lot of parents would have given Connor the money just to keep the peace, would have enabled the abuse to avoid conflict. "I thought about it," I admitted. "God, Emily, there were moments when I wanted to just give him whatever he asked for, if it meant I didn't lose you. But you didn't." "No, because that wouldn't have been love. That would have been fear." Emily hugged me tight. "I'm going to be okay, you know. Eventually. I know. You're the strongest person I've ever met. I learned from the best." I left her apartment, drove home through the Portland evening. My house was quiet when I got there. Empty. But it didn't feel lonely anymore. I made myself tea, sat in my garden as the light faded. My phone buzzed. A text from Emily. "First night in my new place. Kind of scary but also exciting. Love you." I texted back, "You've got this. Love you too." And I smiled. Because 3 years ago, Connor had stood in my living room and tried to make me feel small, powerless, disposable. He'd tried to take my home, my money, my daughter. He'd failed. Not because I'd fought him directly, not because I'd yelled or argued or tried to force Emily to see the truth, but because I'd planned. I'd prepared. I'd documented. I'd waited for the right moment. And when that moment came, when Emily was ready, I'd been there. That's the thing about quiet strength. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't demand attention. It just endures, plans, waits, and wins.